Hey, is there anyone listening? My name's Amit and I'm a bass player based in Berlin. I play in several bands and with a few artists. I also front my own self-produced project called Hall of Fame, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that we have this amp that I wanna review for you, kind of review. The main reason why I wanted to do this video is because before I wanted to get this amp, there was no decent way for me to hear how it kind of sounds in the room with like proper miking and everything. Every YouTube video I checked out on this amp was actually either far away camera mic that catches the amp in the room, or a demo of the head itself through the DI. So I didn't really know like how the cab and head combination is gonna sound in the room. Like I realized that it's very light and very loud. The main reason why I was interested in this amp in the first place was the fact that it's loud enough and it can do a lot of situations. But the second thing is that you can really carry it easily. Before I moved to Berlin, I played as a bass player in Tel Aviv and around cities in Israel. And I had an amp, but the amp almost never left the studio because most productions I played in had their own backline from a rental company. Most venues that you play in Tel Aviv, most live music venues have their own backline. A lot of gigs I did only with in-ears and with no amp, so I basically only had to carry the bass and the pedal board, which actually has an amp simulator. I didn't really have to carry an amp with me every time. In Berlin, the situation is a bit different because most live music venues, even the smaller ones, they don't have their own backline. So whenever you have a gig there, you must bring an amp. It doesn't matter like if it's a bigger venue or a smaller venue, and if it's an open air, you must have your own amp. Also, most of the situations in the smaller venues, you don't really have like good monitoring and let alone like in-ear systems. So I really searched an amp that I can first of all hear myself on stage, but then also it needs to be light to carry because 90% of the time I'm carrying all my gear in public transport. Because here it's different. Like in Tel Aviv, I had a car, and I would always take the car with me when I go to a gig. But here it's different because it doesn't worth it to own a car. There's really good public transport. For me, it was like two really important factors. One of them that it would be light. The other one is that it would be loud enough. I also have a small PA speaker, which is 12 inches, and I used to take it with me to smaller pub gigs, and it did pretty well. Sometimes even a little bit too loud, but in some situations, I was kind of all maxed out, and we start the gig, and the singer like turns around and say, and then like, what am I gonna do now? So that small speaker can do a little bit of the situations with ease, but not all of them. So, about this amp, I actually tried it against 6 or 7 different heads, and I tried this cab against another cab. I don't really want to reveal the names, but I really did the research. Thankfully, I had the privilege to visit Thomann Music Store. It's about 3 or 4 hours from Berlin. There they have like a really nice room with everything you would want to check, like a huge shelf of bass heads, huge wall of cabs that you can try with a switcher. So it was like really easy to like plug in and out of each head and switch between them, and also switch between cabs. So it was really easy to really know the difference and understand how this rig compares to other rigs. Because it's not enough that the rig is light, it has to also sound good. So how does it compare to the really like classic big rigs like SVT Classic, SVT2, all tube amps with 810 or 610? If you have the budget and the space in your car to carry an all-tube amp with an 810, good for you. But then, like, let's say you load into a small bar gig with 20 people with 50 or 60 kilograms of gear, people might look at you weird. So with that, it's like one hand the cab, one hand the pedal board, bass bag and head on your back, and you're set. What was important for me sound-wise is that throughout the years I played a lot of different gear combinations, heads and cabs and combos. And what I found out, there are amps that you plug in and you turn on the volume on your bass and it sounds perfect. You know, you don't have to start messing around with controls and everything. Other amps, when you connect to them, you have to really start messing around with switches and buttons and shapeshifters and all kinds of sorcery. And in the end, when you play with the band, something is like, the presence is not there. Again, I don't want to name names, but there are names that when I come to a venue or a rehearsal room and I see that amp, I know I'm not gonna have fun. So what I'm saying is that for me, always the goal is to plug into an amp and have your sound right away. And if you have to mess around with it, then the basic voicing of the amp and the cab are not to your taste. When you plug in and you feel that you sound amazing, then from there, you know, like if the room is too boomy, you can cut the lows. It's okay, but the idea is to have your sound right away. And this amp for me has it. The voicing of it is, it's not scooped, like not mid-scooped, and it's not too much bumpy in the lows. It has some kind of forward mid-range, but it's not really harsh. So now I'm going through the pedals, but nothing is on. I do have boost pedal that boosts maybe like 2 dBs or 3 dBs, because when I play pick compared to fingers, it's louder, so I need to compensate. So I'm gonna play it now, and the tweeter is off. I always find tweeters to be a little bit too clacky and too hi-fi, but I'll get to it, because with the pedals, with amp simulators, you do need a little bit of extra high end. But without the tweeter, you kind of have an already pretty balanced sound. All right. So I'm gonna play my AV2 T-Bass, which is now the kind of 60s reissue of the 2020s. All right, let's try something with the pick now. So that's how it sounds basically without the tweeter, without any effects, without any EQ, and also like no processing on it, straight to the recording. The mic is positioned not dead on the speaker. It's about, I don't know, like 25 centimeters, like about 10 inches from the speaker. And now how it sounds with the tweeter. Basically, if you use some kind of like a vintage sounding instrument, even a modern instrument, like sometimes tweeters can be like really clacky, and I'm gonna show you in a moment. So this is a tweeter on its lowest setting. All right. This is the tweeter on the half. And this is only half of the tweeter power, and it already sounds pretty clacky. I think they tried to have the tweeter loud enough so if you want to have a range of like super modern hi-fi high-end, you can do it. And this is on full. So I wouldn't really recommend going full, at least not in most situations. So that was totally clean going into the amp. But the thing is, I'm never playing clean straight into the amp because I have an amp simulator going always to the front of house. I blend it some kind of like halfway between amp and speaker and the direct sound, and I do that throughout all the effects. So let's start with a speaker simulator, which is a VT-Bass DI by Tech 21, which emulates a range of bass amps based on MPEG, SVT, B15, SVT, CL, and all of these kind of classic amps. The main thing I was looking for in a rig is to reproduce my amp simulated sound in some kind of way which will not muffle it, because a lot of amps I connect into, when I turn on the speaker simulator, it all sounds muffled and has no high end at all. That's why, for me, it's better to have a tweeter, so I can always, when I turn on the amp simulator and I feel that I miss some high end, I can always turn on the tweeter, and this tweeter, as you heard, has a lot of range. So I will switch between clean and affected, and I think the tweeter is on full. Yeah. I found out that when the tweeter is on full, even with the amp simulator, it's still a little bit clacky, but just so you hear the difference. All right? All right, so this is with the amp simulator, but still, it's still a little bit clacky for my taste. So I found out that the best balance for me, at least right now, when I'm still new to the amp and I haven't played a lot of venues with it yet, but all right, that's, again, without the amp simulator. All right, so as you hear, the MPEG style, driven with the nice grit and drive to it, it's a part of my sound. So I must have it go through the front of house, no matter what. But this amp reproduces it very, very honest. So I have my sound in front of house and in my amp as I want it to be. So the next step is the second color changing pedal that I have, which is a custom overdrive made by Piggy Effects in Tel Aviv. It's almost always on. Now we're gonna stay with the tweeter on low, as I like it, with the amp simulator, and I'm gonna add the drive. So this overdrive, it adds even more grit and dirtiness to the sound. And most importantly, pick playing. For a second, I let you hear it without the drive and without the amp simulator. With both. So, the last thing I wanted to show here, how the amp reacts to fuzz. And that's also important because bass fuzz has the tendency to be too muffled and lack high end when you connect it to a rig that doesn't have the right presence. First, without a pick. With a pick. All right, so what I found personally is that reproduction is pretty honest. When I tried different amps, I found out that there are voicings which are more scooped, voicings which are more mid-forward, like very nosy. What I was trying to find is a rig that can be versatile enough to do all kinds of gigs and like not be too much oriented to a certain voicing. And this amp has it. And apart from that, it's amazingly quiet. It's kind of forward. I can't say that it has the kick of, let's say, a Carbine M9 Mesa with 810. But, you know, like, if you can carry a Carbine M9 with 810, if you have the money, just go for it. But this amp can really satisfy in that region. And also it can satisfy in the region of low end and in the region of loudness for sure, because you cannot hear that because the mic is close to the amp. But all the windows here are rattling, the whole room is like, and I'm only, I don't know, at 10 o'clock. So this is crazy loud. So I hope you found that demo reveals a little bit more of the real sound of the rig to you. and it's like purely cab sound and not at the eye. So you hear how it sounds in the room. Probably it's not gonna be everyone's taste, but it is my taste, and for whoever looks for some amp that will represent the honest sound of the bass with great dynamics, with the great headroom. By the way, this is not in any way supported or sponsored by GR Bass, although I wish it was. But this is like totally my experience with it. I challenge it head-to-head with several other rigs, and I found out this amp to be the best for me and this rig the best for my situation. So, see you. I don't know if I'm gonna see you because this channel hasn't really been active for a long time. I don't know if I'm gonna make any more videos, but this one was really important for me because I just didn't find any video that would represent this cab and this amp in some kind of a good recording that you can really know what to expect without like going 4 hours to hear it in person like me. If you are close to a dealer who sells it, that's okay, but here in Berlin, the dealer that sells them told me you just have to order it and pay for it and take it. Like you can't try before you buy. So I really had to go all the way to where I could test it and really make sure that I connect to it before I buy. So, ciao.